Hello and welcome back to the program. I am once again your host Joe. This week I watched 1953's Tokyo Story. It's on the list because it's from Letterboxd's top 250 films. In fact, it reached number 22 on the list, so that's nothing to sneeze at. It's directed by Yasujiro Ozu. It's a drama, 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb. Just over 2 hours long. I said last week in the race that I thought that maybe this thing would probably not feel like it was 2 hours long. It would be so engaging that maybe it would just fly right by. And you know what? It flew right by. I chose it for the challenge out of everything else on the top 250 on Letterboxd, mainly because I kept seeing people go into the Criterion Closet and talk about how it's a masterpiece. And I really wanted to see if it lived up to the hype.
I can't recommend that enough.
Hey, it lived up to the hype! It's a very simple film, but it's so well put together of a slice of life that it pulls you in and then sucker punches you. The fact that it's such a simple and mundane plot makes it all that much more relatable, and it's something that we all experience at some time in our lives, so it hits even harder. I don't want to give too much away here. Tokyo Story is a story about a family. It's a very generational story. It's not exactly subtle about that. I mean, it opens with the elderly couple just sort of getting ready for a trip. They're packing their bags, they're sitting on the floor. We find out they're visiting their kids in the big city. They've all moved out, they've grown up, some of them even have kids of their own. You can tell this elderly couple is fairly old-fashioned, but the comparison becomes extra stark when they arrive in Tokyo and start interacting with their family. The generational gap is even more clearly on display when we start seeing the grandkids. They're kind of annoyed that the grandparents are visiting. A bunch of their stuff that was out in the room is being moved off to the side so that they have space to, lay out on the floor for their sleeping arrangements. Every time the parents are like, come over, say hi to your grandparents, they're just like, I don't wanna, and then they run off. Everybody chuckles. The grandparents acknowledge the fact that when they were young, it was very much the same thing. But the real thing that jumped out at me, that really made this seem like a generational thing, is this kid is studying English. Now this is a post-war Japan. It's 1954, so the occupation has formally ended for the most part. The army is still hanging around, Okinawa and Iwo Jima are both still occupied, but officially, it's over. Still, the influence has to be felt here, if this child's taking English lessons. Also, we keep being given imagery of factories to signify the changing nature of the country, showing that this elderly couple isn't in their simple life anymore. They're out of their element. I guess you could say this is no country for old men. We get to see the family's reactions to the parents visiting. There's one son who doesn't have the time to come see them. There's a son who tries to make time for them, but he's busy because he's the village doctor. He's the neighborhood doctor. Their eldest daughter acts like it's just such an inconvenience that they're even there. She winds up sending them off to some little resort to get them out of her space for a couple of days. You get the impression of ungratefulness from her. At one point they're about to go out and they're like, oh, I should put on sandals before we go. And the daughter's just like, here, I have some old ones you can put on. Like take the crappy old shoes, Mom. She just feels very annoyed that they're even around. And yeah, when the parents go off to this little resort place, they have a terrible time. This is a place for young people. They're up all night because they can't sleep with all the music and rowdy behavior. Like, they're straight up just people playing, this is a weird ensemble band. There's like a guitar and an accordion going on. And I'm like, I would listen to it. At 11 o'clock at night, this old couple wants to sleep. So they decide they're going to come back to town early because they just aren't getting rest. And the daughter tells them, well, I planned for you to be out. I don't have space for you right now. Like, the daughter is like, no, you can't come back. You need to find somewhere else. The father winds up tracking down two of his old friends who live in the city. They wind up being out all night drinking. The mother ends up visiting the widow of her dead son. She had a son who died in the war, and his wife still hasn't remarried, and the old couple has been worrying about her. They're like, oh, she hasn't remarried. We should definitely go talk to her. She should remarry. He would want that. He'd want her to be happy and go on with life. But the daughter-in-law is so concerned that she isn't doing enough for her mother-in-law while she's there. But like, honestly, the mother-in-law, she's just so glad to have somebody to talk with and spend time with. And I can't say I blame her, given the behavior that the other kids have had. Like, you had the one son who's like, I don't have time to show up. The other son who said, I don't have time to hang out. And then the daughter who's just resentful that they're even there. And at the end of the day, that's really what a visit is about. When you visit a person, sure, there's some benefit to going out with them and taking in the sights, but that's like as a consequence of seeing them. Sending the parents off on their own to some party venue kind of defeats the point of the visit. They're there to see family, not this hot spring. At the end of the day, there's only one child who seems to grasp that. You know, they're there for company, not for sightseeing. And she's a bit of a wreck herself. She's been beating herself up for not mourning their dead son properly. But like, you can't live in mourning anymore. She had her time for that. It's been a couple of years. Like, obviously nobody wants to say you should be over it by now, but like, you have to start living life, you know? This film does spend a lot of time grappling with mortality. The mother in particular seems keenly aware of her age, and she mentions death a few times. They're aware of the passage of time, the changes in the world. I mean, how can they not be? This is set in the 1950s. Both of these people are over 60 years old. They were born before airplanes were invented. These are some 1800s motherfuckers in the 20th century, a time of jet planes and soon-to-be space travel. They've seen how much the world has changed in their lifetimes, and the expectations that society places on people have changed too. This right here is an attitude toward the sort of rapid social change that they've lived through that's necessary for survival, let's be honest. Sometimes you need to adapt, and sometimes the situation changes so strongly and suddenly that it's all you can do to hold on. The attitude toward their son, who is a doctor, it seems particularly striking. Like, when they rolled up, they were like, okay, he's a doctor, that's a great job. And then they show up and they find out, yeah, he's a doctor, but he's not like a big deal. He's not like running, you know, a department at a hospital or something. He runs the neighborhood clinic. But at the end of the day, that's fine. You know, it's still honest work. I'm glad Dad figured it out. You know, you can't just work your way to the top of the food chain. There's a lot of luck involved, and that somebody needs to be working these lower positions. His son is working to keep people healthy in the neighborhood. Like, he's looking after his neighbors. That's great work. And in fact, the son who doesn't have time to visit them, you know, he shows up late towards the end of the film, and he's like, I was out of town on business, I didn't get the telegram until, you know, they were already gone, so like, oops. He's living that life, he's living the grind, and it costs him the ability to meet his parents when they're visiting, you know? I feel that's really a message that needs to be taken from this, is, you know, slow down, take some time, appreciate things that are going on. You know, live your life for the sake of the life. Don't live your life for the sake of the pocketbook, you know? Now, I did mention that there is a real gut punch, and it comes in the third act of the film. I'm not going to tell you what it is, because you should watch this movie, but the behavior of the children really does hit hard, all in their own way, and the loneliness and consignment acted out by all the folks are just, it's heart-wrenching. Oh my god, like, there's some very great acting going on here, and like, the way the people are acting, it works so well. The question as always is, would I recommend this film? And yeah! I mean, a caveat, if you're looking for a happy, fun film, maybe save this one for later. But if you're ready to get to know some people before being pulled into the trenches of the human experience, give it a shot. And hey, speaking of watching something, what am I going to watch next week? 3, 2, 1, and go! Off there, Alexander Nevsky is out front, just by fluke of where it happened to start off. Down into a strange funnel. Okay, this funnel directs them. Oh, I kind of love that. Out front is To Die For, followed by 2 Tons of Turquoise to Taos Tonight and Ghost Dog Way the Samurai. Down they go. Here is A Dead Witch. Ooh, under the house. Out comes Ghost Dog Way the Samurai, completely unperturbed by the Dead Witch. Followed by Altered States and everything else in behind. Ghost Dog Way the Samurai passing this dog here, and then getting caught a little bit there. The ruby sleepers are of course quite shiny. Hello Dorothy, do not mean to be looking up your skirt. Ghost Dog Way the Samurai got a little bit slowed down. Portrait of a Lady on Fire is catching up. Altered States, A Hard Day's Night, and what's this other thing? It's a movie here that doesn't seem to have a name. Odd. They're catching up though. They are slowing down though. This does not seem to be quite that involved of a track right now. This is of course the yellow brick road, I assume. They don't really look like bricks, but there's something. What are you? What are you? Did I not reduce the number? Or is it just not rendering the name of the ball? Weird. Okay, Ghost Dog gets a little bit stuck there, but not quite badly enough to really slow it down. Hits that one too. does get slowed down there. Alright. This is a... Hi, Tin Man. Scarecrow. The Wizard of Oz. I wrote the title, just in case you couldn't figure it out. Alright, Ghost Dog Away the Samurai. Still up front, but it's neck and neck with Hard Day's Night now. Altered State's also there. The Tin Man is chopping. Nothing quite got chopped, but Ghost Dog is behind now. A Hard Day's Night. Altered States and Portrait of a Lady on Fire are... They've managed to come out front. The Nameless Ball is also there. What the hell could it be? French Dispatch, Naked Lunch has died. It must have gotten the chop. Ghost Dog is trying to catch up. Oh, Fantastic Planet in a safe place. Not safe, it seems. Hard Day's Night and Altered States hit the speed up, and then went immediately into a wall. This is quite a lackadaisical stroll along the yellow brick road, it seems. Hard Day's Night and Altered States really are looking like they're probably going to be the only thing in contention. Oh god, teleporters. Hard Day's Night flies up and sticks the landing, followed by Altered States, as anticipated. Here comes Portrait of a Lady on Fire, the Nameless Ball, which was, I guess, Invention for Destruction. Its name just didn't show up. The French Dispatch, Ghost Dog Away the Samurai, Alexander Nevsky, Anatomy of a Murder, Written on the Wind, and The Hidden Fortress. Here comes the rest. There's Pinocchio, here comes A Master Builder, here comes The Battle of Algiers, Playtime, Francis Ha, and To Die For. That is the last of them, and it's official. Our winner, A Hard Day's Night. Which has ended with a 6 here, apparently. Alright, let's pull up our list. A Hard Day's Night. It's right there. From 1964, it's on the list because it's from the Song and Dance collection on Criterion. I believe this is the Beatles movie. Well, this is a Beatles movie. It's not animated, I don't think. No Yellow Submarine nonsense going on here. Directed by Richard Lester, it's a comedy musical. 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb. 88 minutes long. I'm going to mark that down. Watch. And I'm going to write down in the thing... A Hard Day's Night. Alright. Yeah, this will be interesting to watch. The Beatles were interesting characters.